I'm Justin Boyd.
Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco.
And I am Sutek, destroyer of all.
Oh my. Oh Lord. And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Really, Amber, on a Sunday? You're going to destroy everything on a Sunday? I mean, like, wait till Monday, like right before people go to work. There you go. Make people happy.
Time is an illusion.
Oh, God.
Welcome to the Watchers.
That's actually not quoting. That's not quoting Doctor Who. That's actually quoting another show, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when we get there, I'll let you explain that to me because I wasn't that over my head. So,
and you're pretty tall too.
I'm pretty, 6'2". Welcome to Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss the final 4 episodes of season 1. I put that in air quotes of Doctor Who, the new Doctor Who on Disney Plus. Is the easier way to say it. Last week we did the first 4 episodes. Before that, we did some specials that aired over the holidays to get us ready for this season. But now we're wrapping up the season. And Brittany, I want to go to you first because obviously Amber is our expert on this show. I want to get your thoughts on the first just kind of 10,000 foot view of the final 4 episodes. How did you think the season kind of ended in general thoughts?
Man, I thought you were going to say 73 yards. I would have been like, ooh, good tie-in. But no, you went 10,000. It's fine.
Not good enough with the Doctor Who knowledge to pull that off. Next year I will be. Yeah.
So, I mentioned this in the special. I mentioned this in our last pod, talking about the first 4 episodes of the season 1, quote unquote, of Doctor Who for Disney Plus. That, I wasn't quite sure where I would fall with this. Like, I wanted to give it an honest try. And obviously I wanted to do it for Amber too, because she absolutely loves Doctor Who. And we definitely wanted to give her her platform and like just have her moment and talk about something she loves with the rest of the now 400 subscribers we have here on the Watchers in the Basement. Shout out to y'all. Thank y'all so much again for that. But I actually genuinely have started really enjoying this show. I enjoy Ncuti as the 15th Doctor. I'm still learning, people. Don't come for me. But he is an absolute joy to watch. And I think I am committed after watching these last 4 episodes because his performance is just like on a whole other level. Like, the man can act. Like, I love his backstory in general, like prior to becoming the new Doctor and everything just about him. So like, I'm invested in him, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. However, that being said, the 5th episode of this season drove me up the wall. Jesus H. Christmas. I was like, okay, I can't believe the writers went there. I can't believe like this is what I was watching. It was combining, my love for like The Sims, growing up back in the day in the PC days, with the wonderful Sims that was, not now. But oh my God, that whole storyline just made me so angry. And of course, pretty much every time I'm watching these episodes, I'm talking with Amber simultaneously, and I'm letting her know my thoughts. Thank God for the next episode, Rogue, because that was by far the best episode in the last half of this season. And then the penultimate was just so well done, so well written. And then the finale, I think the finale was good. I think I'm still a little lost on some areas, but overall, I think this was a really great season overall for like someone like me who has no background whatsoever on Doctor Who to get like enough background to kind of understand who the Doctor is and like the things that have happened, because it's kind of, there's callbacks, right? So I think for me, this, I'm invested. I'm here. I'm here for it. So good job, Amber.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really like the show. This is a show that whenever it returns, I guess the Christmas special coming up, the holiday season, we're probably going to be doing this show weekly. I bet whenever it comes back and whenever season 2 is, as long as
Down
Amber
girl,
returns,
down girl, contain your excitement.
Yes, as long as we have our bad wolf leading the way, we will do that. But no, I agree with pretty much everything you said, Brittany. I do like the show quite a bit. I've really enjoyed the cast, which the main cast is, like you said, Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson, who plays Ruby Sunday. I enjoy those characters, their stories. I like how the show is. It's kind of like all the episodes are sort of self-contained, and there's like a narrative story for the whole season, but you can kind of just be thrown into one of these episodes. Like I think these episodes, a lot of them could be out of order, except for maybe the first one, like the 7th and 8th episodes. But the other ones, I think you can kind of mix the order, and it really wouldn't impact the storyline overall. So yeah, I enjoyed the show quite a bit, and yeah, I'm glad we're doing this. And once again, thanks to Amber for putting us on to Doctor Who. So now, Amber,
Yay.
what are kind of your overall thoughts or general thoughts for the final 4 before we get into each individual episode?
I liked it. I did. We'll get into it like more when we get to like the very last episode and kind of wrapping up all of them. But there have been like it's kind of mixed reviews among fans. I personally really enjoyed it. I had a great time. But then again, I'm also always gonna have a great time. There were some fans who kind of felt like all of the, I guess, Easter eggs and things that they were kind of teasing us with, that it kind of was making, like by the end, what it actually ended up being, it kind of, some people feel like they were kind of making fun of the fans by being just like, haha, you guys wanted to see something important, but sucks for sucking. You're not gonna get it. Like that's kind of like what a lot of so some people are very hard, like they didn't really care for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally see it that way. I think there's just a lot that, and Russell T Davies does quite a lot of this kind of stuff when he's the showrunner. So I don't know. I feel like that a lot of people were taking, like especially a lot of the classic fans were taking really harsh reactions for him doing things that he has done before, like, or similar things that he has done before, and they loved it. They loved it before, and it's like, okay, well, why are you judging it now? Kind of thing. It seems very much just like fans getting mad that the showrunners aren't giving you exactly what you wanted. Like,
Yeah.
That's kind of like the kind of mixed vibes that everyone else has been having. I really enjoyed it. I liked that they brought back Sutek is from the 4th Doctor's run, and the from like 1975 special. So it's just I thought it was really cool how they kind of bring things back like they did with the Toymaker, but they did it in a way also where it's still really, I guess, you guys weren't completely lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like they explained it in a way that it makes complete sense. Yeah. We all kind of joke about other certain things like so if Sutek has been attached to the TARDIS since 1975, now we're kind of going through the entire show since 1975 and being like, there was a scary dog there. And well, there's a time where the TARDIS is like shrunk to like this big and put into a companion's purse. And yeah, and so is there a little chihuahua looking like Sutek in there?
Not a chihuahua, it's a runt. It's like a little runt of a dog.
And then just other things, like there is an episode where the TARDIS, the soul and heart of the TARDIS is put into the body of a woman. And the Doctor, like in that whole episode, like we have conversations with the TARDIS, and it's just a little bit like, baby girl, why didn't you mention that? You have a scary dog attached to you.
Oh no.
Like, come on.
So 2 questions real quick. The first being, remind us again what doctors are like the missing files, I guess you could say. What number of doctors are missing that people have not seen the footage of those shows? Is that something you know off the top of your head?
Not really off the top of my head. I know mostly it's 1 and 2. Mostly 1. Okay. But this is 4. We do have access to that.
Okay.
But
because
being
I was curious.
access to it.
Yeah, I was curious if like these are things that may have been lost and that they're now trying to bring back into this 15th Doctor because it's a whole new generation or a whole new audience that they're trying to appeal to, and that way everyone's kind of like on the I've been saying this, even level playing field, right? The second question I have for you with the TARDIS having been shrunken and then also having been more or less a human being. I mean, with Suket, like it's cloaked because even the Doctor didn't know that it was attached to the TARDIS. So would the TARDIS had even been aware that this god has attached itself to it? And you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. It would have been.
We don't know either. We don't know either.
Gotcha.
We don't know because I mean, Sutek does say that he is attached to the spine of the TARDIS,
Right.
and she typically knows what's up with her. So, I mean, she has and that also kind of is a question that we've asked ourselves too, is like, because the Doctor has a psychoactive link with her, with the TARDIS. So,
right.
Sorry, like since she was in a woman's body, it's kind of like a joke because he's like, well, what do I call you? And she's like, what you always call me. And he's like, what? And she's like, sexy. And he's like, no, only when we're alone. He's like, well, when we're alone. And she's just like, we are alone. It was a very funny thing because she didn't see how like silly that was because she's a shit. But yeah, it's kind of a joke. It's there, and companions have jokes before too, like where when they meet other companions, past companions, they're just like, do you sometimes just want to leave him alone with the TARDIS? Like, do you guys need a moment? Like, it's kind of a joke.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
So, but he has that all like Time Lords have the psychoactive link with their like. He should have known if she knew, and I don't think she knew. But that's my personal take on it.
Okay. Let's get into the first episode today. This is episode 5 of the season, episode titled Dot and Bubble. Dot and Bubble, we meet this character. Her name is Lindy Pepperbean. She is a citizen of a place called Fine Time, which is this bubble enclosed city. And everyone there uses this like social media platform that's like creates a bubble around them, literally. And you definitely can like feel the social commentary of this episode where it's like, you know, obviously it's commentary on people, you know, spending too much time on social media, spending too much time on their phone, being online more than they are like just being a person. So I get that part of it. Brittany, what did you think about this episode, this character, this world that we're just kind of thrown into?
So initially, before learning Lindy Pepperbean and also F her, I'll get into that a little bit later. Initially, when the episode began, I'm like, oh, this is very like The Sims, like the good Sims, what I used to play back in 1999 on the family PC, right? Because the fact that you're hearing these commands from, I guess, either the Dot or whatever AI is part of their livelihood that's telling them to get out of bed, turn left, walk forward. You know what I'm saying? Like these very sim-like. And then the further the episode progressed, I'm like, oh, this is like also kind of like how WALL-E is, for those who have watched the Disney movie WALL-E, where all of these people who were once on Earth are now living in this like aircraft that is like this its own little town, and people literally just sit in a hover recliner all day long talking to each other on screens when they're sitting right next to that person. So it was just very reminiscent of those sort of vibes I was getting, like, you know, both computer game and WALL-E the movie. But then Lindy, dear God, I by the end of this episode I needed to see her dead because of how horrible of a person she really is, how she initially even spoke to her friends, and even more so to Ruby and to the Doctor when they, I guess you could say, infiltrated her her bubble and are trying to warn her, hey, there's like some monster that's like there taking all y'all out. And she's like, gods, you're stupid. And just, I'm like, okay, like that to me, peace out, good luck, bye. You know, yeah, that this whole what was it called again, Justin?
Fine time.
Yeah, not so fine. Everything is not so fine in Fine Time. And yeah, how even the Doctor and Ruby came across this particular universe to learn that they are endangered.
Mm-hmm.
It's still kind of confusing me. And then also like the creatures itself. I don't think I fully picked up on like how they got there or how they were there or how they were like generated. I know both Justin and Amber will probably be able to explain that better than I can. But the fact that those creatures too reminded me of the slug from Monsters University, one of my favorite movies. But yeah, that's the vibes I was getting. I'm like, wow, this is very Disney centric, like very Disney, very, you know, Sim centric, which was that I initially loved. And then afterwards I was like, nope, she needs to die. I need to see her die. I need to see her die.
I mean, she couldn't even like walk without the directions from the dot. Like literally she didn't know what to do. When she wakes up, the first time we see her, she walks toward the restroom following the directions. And it's like, do I need to pee? And then this doctor comes on and says like, oh, you know, 0 urine content for the 3rd day in a row. Well done. I'm thinking like, that's not good. Like
that's not good.
You need to have, you know, have some
You're
fluids,
supposed
some
to
water
on those things. Good job.
Yes, like what are these people not even eating? Are they not drinking? Like
they're just not real people. Is that
they're just not real people? Yeah, exactly.
Because even like we see this Ricky September character who's like the most popular person in Fine Time, and to me, like I don't know, the way he's like made up to look like it's almost like he's. I mean, obviously, we find out his name is not, in fact, Ricky September. That's a nickname, which Lindy uses against him later to save herself.
This bitch.
Yeah, but he's like this
cold-blooded.
Yeah, he's this icon or this like pop star in this world, and to me, he just looked like he was like right. He just looked like he was like kind of fake. So maybe it's also social commentary of these just like fake people and people that solely exist online. But Brittany, before we go to Amber, I just want to say, like, I think with the slug-like creatures that are eating people, what I understood is like the dots have become sentient and they are basically like this AI. And so they're like, they created the monsters to take out the home world and take out the human beings or whatever these people are.
Okay. Yeah.
They're proto-humans.
Okay. So, having said all that, let's go to the expert. Amber, what did you think about this episode, or is there anything you want to highlight from this one?
I mean, we know that, like you said, yes, they do say that the dots created the slugs. How? I want to know how.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Was it mucus? Maybe? Mucus, possibly.
Maybe. There's a lot of what is it? There's a lot of feline fiascos happening behind screen. There's actually, because there is that commentary about people being on social media too often or relying too heavily on technology. But the main actual one is racism.
Yes.
That's the main one.
God.
Which that rears its ugly head at the end of the episode, like hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah, you see it at the very end of the episode, but there's also like there's hints throughout the entire thing. Like the showrunner and other people have also been talking about it for that episode, saying like, at what point in the episode did you realize that it was all white characters?
Yeah.
At what point did you notice that?
Oh, right off the bat. Like
exactly.
When
it's
she
just kind
woke
of like,
up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's like one of the things that's supposed to make you kind of self-reflect, which is good. That's the point of a lot of Doctor episodes. And it's really very it's a very interesting episode. Yes, Lindy is very, very annoying and racist and evil. But
the the elitism and
Yeah.
all of that too at the very end. I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone in Fine Time is white, wealthy, and young. I think they said the age range was 17 to 27 for everyone in Fine Time. So
So
And it was,
we're all out.
and it was a whole thing too with they only work like what 2 hours a day.
2 horrible hours.
that was the
ever.
best part of. Honestly, if I'm signed up for Fine Time, that's how they're going to recruit me is through the 2 hours a day, because I could do a lot of podcasts if I only had to work 2 hours a day. Just saying.
And while I was looking actually into series to discuss with you guys later at the end,
Yep.
one thing that I thought was interesting was that they do like this one post made a lot of connections between how Fine Time operates and old school Gallifrey.
Mm.
Gallifrey, the Citadel of Gallifrey is also in a bubble.
Okay.
Just like Fine Time is in a bubble in the
Yep.
forest.
And Gallifrey, of course, just so for people who may not know, that's the home
Yeah,
world
sorry.
for the Doctor. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Continue.
Where he was raised. But like what's kind of interesting too is that because the Time Lords do, I've mentioned before, they think of themselves very, they're kind of pompous. They think that they are the greatest beings in the universe. They're the smartest. They're the best. That like, you have to have some kind of arrogance to call yourself the Time Lords.
Right.
Like, there's a whole thing about it. But so like that, there's that kind of arrogance. Time Lords are also a little elitist with their, obviously that Time Lords are the best species, and that Time Lords are better even than just regular Gallifreyans. And
but are they racist?
Pretty much. I mean, the Doctor's granddaughter, Susan, she is described as half human or part human, and one of the main reasons he took her with her and when they escaped, when they ran away from Gallifrey. And also there's a thing with I don't want to talk about it, so I'm just going to say the word, but like there is a thing called looms that Gallifreyans are made out of, which kind of seems very similar to space babies.
Okay.
So
Okay.
some people were making the connections that like they would, especially since Lindy had such a visceral reaction where like, you guys are in the same room together, like physical contact just does not happen.
Yeah.
So
holding
how
hands,
do this,
hugging.
how does this community procreate? And some people think that would be space babies. So they were kind of making that connection. And yeah, I thought that was interesting. Interesting to think about.
Yeah, I can get behind that maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, unless I'm wrong, this is one of the, especially that scene at the very, very end when the Doctor's pleading with them to let him help them.
Right.
I believe that was Ncuti's first filmed thing for the season. And obviously he did the stuff with David Tennant and stuff for the specials, but this is his first like actual thing for the season. And it was a very obviously rough thing to do, but something that we kind of expected to happen eventually. The Doctor seeing the effects of not being a white man for the first time and having to deal with the repercussions of that. Because the Doctor always tries to save people and always tries to help people, but you can only go so far.
And the comment when he, okay, so we're going to jump a little bit ahead and then we'll come back to the nitty gritty of it. The comment ahead that I'm referring to when all these people who were able to escape the dots and the creatures and all that stuff, they're refugees now. And the Doctor is like, yes, you can go on your merry way, or you all can come with us. I have a spaceship. It's in that, box behind me. It's massive on the inside and what have you. And he's saying all these things that we know to be true at this point, but to these Fine Time people, it's like, you're crazy. And the one other girl who is friends with Lindy, she's like, that's voodoo. And I'm like, oh my God. we're gonna use that choice of word like over any other like adjective, to describe. I was like, okay, we're gonna go there. That floored me when I mean I got the hints of racism all throughout the episode, but like that absolutely floored me. That outright said it, and I was just like, you know what? Fuck all y'all. Go ahead, go die. Go ahead with your captain. Go ahead, bye. Like bye bye. Like I don't wish you well. Bye bye. I was so upset about all that. Like, I could not believe that we got that as an episode.
It's rough. And I mean, we do see a little bit of something similar happen with the 13th Doctor, because the 13th Doctor is the first female presenting Doctor. And there was a time where, like, I don't remember when in history they were, but a guy very much just like, no, you can't do anything. You can't be here. And she's just was completely like flabbergasted, because she's just like, she's never been, I guess, barred from an opportunity to help people. And it was very, very similar kind of situation where she wanted to be able to help people and they wouldn't allow her to do that because she was female. And it's a rough thing to have to happen. And it's, and I'm kind of glad that they did it in this way, especially since like Lindy is absolutely vile. And like, and I also think it's very, very interesting that they didn't go into the past for this. This is the future. And that is terrifyingly grim. Like, that blows my mind. And that these are proto-humans and this is still happening. And it's very, very, very upsetting. And it's supposed to be. But as for like how you mentioned before that you don't really know how the Doctor and Ruby got there, that's kind of the point. That's they just stumble upon issues and fix them.
That's fine. I mean, but like to get down to the nitty gritty of like this whole episode, like we've already mentioned that it's this dome. People live by this dot with their bubble around them. They don't have physical interactions with their quote friends and what have you, but people are going missing. Like one of Lindy's friends is like, hey guys, like I haven't heard from so-and-so in like a week. And, he's like kind of sounding the alarm and whatnot, but Lindy's like, oh, whatever, F you kind of thing. Like, by the way, I'm an influencer. Look what I'm wearing, blah, blah, blah. And when Ruby finally is able to break through to Lindy because Lindy had blocked the Doctor, right, when he was trying to reach out to her, Lindy is reluctant to oblige Ruby's request of turning off the dot, lowering the bubble, and all that other good stuff, to see that the people that she works with in the same room as her, the 5 other people, are not there. Like they're not online, they're not physically there, but to her right, she sees this creature like devouring some guy, and she's horrified. She can't think for herself because, she's so engrossed in whatever her life is with this bubble and such, and almost doesn't make it out alive, without the help of Ruby and the Doctor, and still is combative in the sense of not wanting to listen to what they have to say and not really wanting to accept the help. And then finally, at some point, she's like on the call with her friends, like, hey, I know this sounds crazy, but this is all true, blah, blah, blah. We need to get out of here. And then poor Ricky September, who is actively trying to help Lindy get out, and she's just like so infatuated with him. Like she throws him under the bus after it's discovered that the reason that Lindy and some of her other friends have been able to survive is because these creatures are killing off everyone alphabetically, right? And Lindy is a Pepper Bean, so her last name being Pepper. She's like further down on the list. Well, Ricky September had actually changed his name from a C last name. And Lindy used that to her advantage when her dot was trying to attack her and kill her as they're trying to escape. She got him murdered by her dot.
Yep.
Also that she could make it out alive. And then when it's like, oh, hey, where is Ricky September? Oh, He went back. There was nothing I could do. And I'm like, you have no remorse whatsoever for this person that you like loved and called him your friend. And like he tried to help you. And then you're just like, bye.
Yeah. Because they were kind of raised in this cold, selfish environment where they aren't supposed to value that kind of thing. And also, like, it's so interesting to me that the algorithm for the AI for Dot gave her the option to block the doctor, but for Ruby, it only gave her the option to close the window. It didn't give her. She didn't block Ruby.
I caught that too.
And like, there's things like that, and also like I think another thing too is, yeah, you're going to want to like Ricky September, but he's raised in the same environment as she is. Like, yeah, he disconnects from his dots sometimes and reads books and stuff like that. But what kind of books are going to be kept around in a society like that? Like, even if Ricky had survived, it probably still wouldn't have changed the outcome. They still probably would have gone off. I personally, for my own sanity, like to think that there is a waterfall around that corner. But that's me.
Right. When they sail away. Yeah.
So if they couldn't walk on their own, could they swim? Or I'm
going to say no. I'm going to say no.
They're going to drown.
They're going to drown.
I hope they get eaten by sharks.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, well, we also don't really know what else is on that planet.
Don't care. I hope it's something deadly.
No, I'm glad. I don't care either. I'm just interested in like what else could kill them.
Yeah.
But
nature.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to. They're not going to survive if they're going to have to rough it. Like, they're not going to be able to do that. And it's, I don't know. It's just it's very, very. It's a very interesting, I guess, thought-provoking episode. But yeah, you're not alone. Trust me. Everybody hates. We all hate her.
God.
Like, everyone violently hates her, and people have done like art with the slugs being just like eat racists, and other things like that too. And it's just so funny, and because we're all just like, we're pro slug here. Because they're eating bad people. We don't care.
Right.
Yeah. Pro slugs. I can get behind that.
Yeah, and kind of like how I think it's another way for the show to show us, I guess, how there are so many different, when you expand your show from outside of Earth to just being multiple planets, multiple galaxies, multiple cultures and races and species. It's a whole interesting thing that you are going to come across different things, but ultimately, like, not humanity, because they are proto-humans, but like, we do see this similar behavior in other species as well. And it's just kind of a way for the show to introduce us to that like, this show is going to it has a very, very strong high points between obviously how horrible people are going to exist regardless of the species, the race, the age, the time. Like, it's just, people are going to suck.
So to kind of get a little ahead of myself with the finale, the end of this particular world, I was okay with. Like, it's fine. It didn't need to come back at all, like, ever, by any means. This was the one world that I feel like maybe even the doctor could agree that it did. When it died, it could stay dead. It's fine. It's fine. Thank God for the next episode. That's all I'm
agree.
saying.
Yeah, so I think we touched on everything from this episode except for one thing I want to mention. That last week, Amber alerted me and Brittany to something to look out for. There's a certain character. This actress name is Susan Twist, and she's kind of the Where's Waldo of this season. And in this episode, very clearly,
Mummy.
She is Lindy Pepperbean's mother, Penny Pepperbean. So
Mummy.
Interesting that we, right away, we see her, and of course, spoiler alert, she plays a big role in the rest of the season. But it was nice to finally, I don't know.
Pick
I
up
mean,
on that.
I think that the show would have obviously like said, "Hey, Justin, here's where you should look." But I appreciate Amber for Amber telling us last week, "Hey, like look out for this." And I was on alert the whole time. I'm like, "Is that her? Is that her?" Like, I was trying to find her. Then they literally just put her face on screen. I'm like, "Okay, there it is. It's not that hard."
Yeah.
So
yeah, Rogue is a little harder, only a little bit because she's only there for a very, very.
Nope, caught onto that like that.
I know you did, and I was very happy.
Yep.
So
I saw it.
So let's move on to the next episode. By the way, I want to mention in the next episode, just keeping with the Susan Twist, Where's Waldo angle. In this episode, I did not notice her until the very end of the episode when they were saying next time on the show, leading into the following episode where they showed the painting and they really spent time on. That's when I noticed it was her. So
bless your damn heart.
I did just say that it was a little harder to see that one. It was a blink and you miss it.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on to the next episode, which I think is a standout episode called Rogue. Yeah. Rogue.
My favorite of the season, honestly.
Yeah. Let's break it down. They're at a ball. The Doctor and Ruby are at a ball in 1813. And we meet a bounty hunter named Rogue. And in this episode, Brittany, we got some actors that we're familiar with. We have the one of the stars of Hamilton, Jonathan Groff. And he's been in other stuff also. And we also got a Game of Thrones actress, Indra Varma, who was also in the Obi-Wan Star Wars series, I believe. She was in some kind of Star Wars, yeah. So it's good to see people that we've seen in other stuff.
There was also one more. You wouldn't know him too closely, but I definitely do because I watched Netflix's Emily in Paris, and that is he was a lord, quote unquote. He was the bad lord that in the very beginning of this episode, the two gentlemen that were talking, one ultimately is the bad person, the shapeshifter, spoiler, who is like, "Oh, you are bad." He's like, I want to be you. So he takes over the body. And that's mainly one of the bad shapeshifters throughout the episode. That guy, I think his name is Nathan Farman, but he is a character in the show Emily in Paris who I like him. I don't like him in that show, but I liked him here. He's very good at playing the villainous. But yeah, I was so excited. I was like, is that the same guy from Emily in Paris? And then the whole, I'm like, oh, she was in Game of Thrones. And then like Jonathan Groff. I was like, oh my God, like what is happening in this episode? It was
the king,
great.
right? He's the best song in the whole. Yeah.
He plays King George. He also plays Kristoff in Frozen.
Yeah.
He's
also in Matrix 4. He's Agent Smith in Matrix 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of stuff.
He's been in many things. I genuinely really like him.
Who was also with Neil Patrick Harris in Matrix 4. So I don't know. Are we gonna get Keanu Reeves at some point in this series? Because let's just make it a Matrix 4 like
or a John. What about a John Wick crossover? Yeah, there you go.
There's that theory that Keanu Reeves is a vampire. He doesn't age. So like, and there's portraits of people who look like him throughout time. Oh my
God! It's also like Daniel Radcliffe. That's a whole other side story. Anyway, back to Rogue.
Yes.
No, this episode.
Love with this episode.
Perfection.
Well, this episode has a little bit of everything. I mentioned we have a bounty hunter. We have shapeshifters, and we have a Bridgerton style episode. So, Amber, I know you're a fan of that show.
Yes.
So what are your overall thoughts on the episode Rogue?
It's my favorite episode this season. Not just because of everything, but that does impact it. I think it's funny that even Ruby is a fan of Bridgerton. She even said, like, they joke about Bridgerton in the story. So it's kind of funny that they do that. In the Christmas special, a Bridgerton actress is going to be in the upcoming Christmas special. So we also got the Queen from Bridgerton. It's who is playing Nanny in Space Babies. And I'm loving it because this is actually came out right in between, because season 3 of Bridgerton came out in 2 parts. one in May, one in June. This came out like just before the second half of Bridgerton, so everyone was just kind of like, they're feeding us while we wait. And not only that, but it's also very, it's obviously with the Doctor and Rogue and the flirtationship that goes on and stuff like that. That happened during Pride Month. We're all so happy.
Let's get it.
Yes.
With Kylie Minogue. La 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 la. Oh my God, I was living.
Yeah. And I do, don't worry, when we, at the end of the episode, when we talk about theories, upcoming stuff, I do have some theories about Rogue. I have like at least two. But I genuinely loved it. I like seeing a bounty hunter. The Doctor has a type. This is not new. And he also reminded, he's an American actor for one. That reminded a lot of, he as a person reminded us of a lot of a character from the previous reboot, Jack Harkness, and who was also an American, who is also kind of a bounty hunter.
Okay.
Also traveled through time. It's just seeing Rogue and just how he behaves. A lot of us were before, and also Jack does have feelings. Jack Harkness did have feelings for the Doctor. There was a kiss between Jack Harkness back in 2005. And that's kind of another thing that I wanted to mention too, is a lot of people were like freaking out about how Disney made Doctor Who have its first gay kiss, or Doctor Who is trying to be woke by doing this, especially during Pride Month. It's like, no. Jack Harkness smacked one on the Rose and then smacked one on the Master. Sorry, not on the Master, on the Doctor. In the same exact episode. Like, he was going to go off and fight or whatever. He's like, I guess, like, and he kisses Rose and then kisses the Doctor and then goes off to help try and save the day. And it's just like, that happened in 2005.
So
this
I have
is
a quick
not the
question.
first time.
I have a quick question. This kind of sidebar. Bounty hunter. Someone who's able to travel through time. But that's a thing? Like, that's acceptable? Like, I thought with the Doctor being a Time Lord and all this other stuff, like, was he the only kind of species that could travel all through time? I mean, this bounty hunter, like we don't know what universe they're from or that kind of thing. So how does, like, in a nutshell, how does that work out?
Time Lords and the Doctor also, they know that other species and other life forms are going to create some kind of time travel, but kind of like how the Doctor mentioned with the goblins, that this is like cheap trick, kind of like basically very cheap ghetto kind of time travel compared to what they do. Because, but again, that's the Time Lords being elitist. So, like, there is another time, because Jack Harkness, I'm really trying not to make connections to him, but he had a vortex manipulator. So, like a bracelet, he could just kind of hop through time, but it was just for him. And River Song also had a vortex manipulator. There's a theory that it is Jack's vortex manipulator. Not confirmed ever, but it's a theory. So it is possible. And the Doctor is aware of that. Time Lords were aware of that before Gallifrey disappeared the most recent time. And then it's a thing. It happens. They just kind of deal with it. He's normally kind of not judgy, not as bad as like other Time Lords would be, but he is a little bit just like, mine's better. That's kind of just the teasing energy he has usually.
Because when the two like are made aware of each other in the ballroom of this, like, you know, like I said, like a ball that's happening, right? There's some sort of interference happening with like the hardware that Ruby's wearing that allows her to be able to dance. And Doctor's like, just don't put it into battle mode, which I thought was really funny. But the interference track leads him to Rogue, and they, you know, have an exchange and what have you. And when they stumble upon the now corpse of the Duchess, who's hosting this ball because a shapeshifter has now taken over the Duchess's body. They find the corpse, and they're kind of, these two men are suspicious of each other, right? The Doctor and Rogue, and Rogue then busts out with like this like kind of futuristic looking gun, and it's just like, oh, like I didn't see that one coming. But then when they're walking to the spaceship, or his spaceship, right, you don't see it because it's, you know, it's invisible, it's cloaked, and Rogue says like, oh yeah, my ship is behind that shed, referring to the TARDIS. And the Doctor's like, that's my ship, like that's a TARDIS, like it's not a shed. And then Rogue reveals the nature like of his ship, and it's like massive, and it's like, okay, you know, we're over here like playing, you know, mine's bigger than yours. And you know, the Rogue is convinced that the Doctor is the shapeshifter, that he's been charged to come out and find and destroy and what have you. And yeah, that I kind of understood with the whole like, oh, you know, mine's better than yours kind of thing, because like just playing that little game of yeah, that was kind of funny. Like their whole like chemistry on screen was just absolutely wonderful. And especially when the Doctor is entrapped in like this triangular, you know, trap, like I said, and he's kind of messing about with the sonic screwdriver and turns on the music, and it's Kylie Minogue's song from, oh God, was that 2004, 2005? I'm trying to remember where I was when that song came out. It was just viral, but it's la 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 la. I mean, and then like Rogue is so embarrassed by it, turns it off, and it's back and forth of turning on, turning off, and then the Doctor's like, I just can't get you out of my. Oh my God, I would love that the whole thing. I'm like, oh, he's getting it. He is getting it. Okay, loved it.
You want to know something even funnier?
Oh God,
Kylie Minogue's been on Doctor Who.
Oh really? Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
I'll try and show it. I don't know if it'll clear up at all, but yeah, that's her with David Tennant.
Okay.
Ah, look at that. That's very cool.
Yeah,
very, very cool.
Very funny to me.
That is.
But yeah, it was I love their energy, and I love.
They did too.
Oh, it was so great. The Doctor just having a type, and it's so funny to me. And but like the flirting, and then the psychic paper saying you're hot was so fun.
It's like, wait, who's hot? Am I hot, or are you saying you're hot? Like, I need clarification. He's like, oh no, it's broken. And it's like, what is happening?
The instant panic. I mean, the wallet, the psychic paper has done that like before, but it's so funny to me every time it happens. Because he was trying really hard to be just like, this shows whatever, and it's just like, this says you're hot. I loved it so much. Him noticing that Rogue got his name from D&D. This was just a very fun episode, not only because of the Bridgerton, because of Jonathan Groff and the flirting and the gay, but also just like the the cosplaying and the D&D kind of feeling of it. It was so funny to me. I really love this episode so much.
Well, and then Ruby too. Ruby is making friends with a lady Emily, who seems to be having a time with the one Lord I had mentioned earlier, and Emily has taken a liking to Ruby. Ruby's just very like today, like using the vernacular of today, and Emily is just like, oh, I like you, like okay, you know, that's just hilarious. I didn't see this coming. I don't know if you did, Justin. I didn't see Emily being one of those shapeshifters like that.
Yeah, and they're
obviously go ahead.
No, they're called the Childor, right? Childor or something. Yeah, so
Childor.
That's what those people are, and then or those alien beings are those shapeshifters, and that surprised me too. And obviously at the very end, whenever we think that Ruby has been, you know, turned into one, and we learned that she wasn't. So like that kind of faked me out too, because it seemed like she was gonna be, you know, converted into, or the shapeshifter was gonna take her body or take her form.
Exactly.
That was pretty surprising. did want to mention. I want to ask Amber to get her thoughts on. There's a portion of this episode where we see holograms of previous doctors, and we also see how much Rogue, enters the TARDIS and he loves it. Just kind of talk about those things a little bit, if you could.
What exactly do you want me to talk about? Because there's even like a doctor who has never really been, I guess, I don't want to say canonized, but he was kind of like in a spin-off kind of thing. Like he's not usually in the lineup, I guess. Sorry, cattail. He's not usually in the lineup and stuff like that. So he actually showed up and we were kind of like, ah! I don't remember which face it was because this was not in order. That was kind of interesting too. They were mixing around doctors. Overall, I thought it was just really, really neat. Kind of a little Time Lord thing. And I think it was a fun way for new fans to see previous doctors because, I mean, Brittany, you've seen previous doctors because I sent you photos. Yes. And I mean, and Justin, you also seen previous doctors because you know the actors who have played previous doctors.
Right.
But this was just kind of a cool way because I think people, especially if they didn't watch the specials, if they're watching it just from the season starting off right with the reboot, a lot of them, this is their, they know in theory that the Doctor can change faces and can change and regenerate and stuff like that. But this is their way of showing it, I think. And I thought that was very interesting, and I liked how they did it. And I also, I love seeing people enter the TARDIS for the first time. It's always like the greatest thing in the world. And most people freaking out because it's bigger on the inside. They even joke about it at one point. There was a companion that said, like, it's smaller on the outside instead of bigger on the inside to kind of, and everyone was just kind of like, you said it wrong. Yeah.
When Jonathan Groff, when Rogue, finally realizes that the Doctor's been telling the truth all along, he's not a shapeshifter. He is who he says he is. He releases the Doctor. They walk over to TARDIS, and basically the Doctor's kind of like, brace yourself. And Rogue says, "This isn't my first shed." Oh my God. Like the scandal. How scandalous of him to say, which would lead to another scene inside the ballroom. But I have to stay on that line for a second, just because of the nature of it. That is Jonathan Groff. And knowing that he's gay. He's very open about it, and we all love him for that, what have you. But just like the very nonchalant, casual, like, this isn't my first shed. And it's like, bro. It's so funny.
So and I love how once he gets into the TARDIS, he's like,
oh my God.
Well, he's just like, I am in love, and then he's like, with this shit, like,
yes.
Right.
So funny.
Flirting. I can't deal with it. I don't blame the Doctor, and I don't blame Rogue. Because in either one of those positions, I would be the exact same way. I love them.
And then them figuring out that the reason that the shapeshifters are there is because of TV, right? Bridgerton has obviously been a phenomenal show that has a huge following. It's reached out to the universe because television waves, science. Sure, we're going to go with this. But these shapeshifters have come to 1813 to pretty much cosplay the entire time. And their finale, if you will, is going to be like this big wedding. They thrive off the drama. They thrive off of like the emotion and what have you. And so when that's figured out, Rogue and the Doctor are going to really amp up the drama. What's more scandalous in 1813 than two men dancing with one another and then have like this big scene, this big argument? And then out of nowhere, Rogue gets down on one knee and proposes. I texted Amber. I was like, wait a minute. Like, was that for the moment because of what the Doctor said? Like, hey, we needed to amp up drama. Or was that like for real? Because like they were having moments in the TARDIS and in his ship. And I'm like, because Rogue at one point says to the doctor, like, what if you like came with me and traveled with me? And I'm like, like that's what I want to know. I want to know, was it for the moment or was he like asking for real? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I want to say it's for real, but that's just.
I'm gonna get behind that too. By the way, their dancing, the choreography was phenomenal, of course, and like just I love these two acting on screen. They had such great chemistry, and it really shined throughout that whole sequence. And I'm like, oh my god, I need more of this. I need it.
Yeah. And so we see that the shoulder are these like bird-like people, right? They look like kind of like owls or birds of some feather. We think that they have taken Ruby's body, but that is actually not the case. And then we get to the dramatic climax of the episode where Rogue sacrifices himself to save Ruby, and the doctor then keeps the ring that Rogue gave him during the proposal, which kind of gave us kind of a bittersweet moment. Amber, what did you think about how this episode like reaches conclusion?
He's wearing the ring in the rest of the episode, just so you know.
Yeah, there you go.
I actually kind of like that because it shows that, like, I mean, the doctor doesn't have rings or anything else for his other significant others. I kind of like, honestly, marriage and divorce must be real tricky on Gallifrey, but yeah, I mean, technically his wife is dead, so he is free to marry Rogue. So time is weird like that. So it's very I just loved it all. I loved the whole thing so much, and I loved the proposal, and I also, because that is very, very dramatic, and it is very kind of in line with what is storyline wise for used in Regency era stuff. So like not just Bridgerton, but Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen's work, any of Jane Austen's work. That the climax of the thing is proposals or rejected proposals, or the tension around that, and then they always end in a wedding. So it was always very, very interesting. I want to know obviously when and how the doctor is going to find Rogue, because he did say find me before hitting the button. It is so interesting. I love this episode so much. I don't know what else you want me to say, man.
I need Jonathan Groff to come back. I need them to have another massive smooch moment before an ultimate sacrifice. I need it. I need it.
I want him to be a companion at least for a season.
There you go. Yes.
That'd be cool. Yeah. The final thing I'll point out about this episode is it was co-written by Kate Herron. Now you might go, who is that? Well, Kate Herron was the showrunner for season 1 of Loki. So maybe that's
okay.
Part of why Amber liked Loki so much, and that's why she helped us review it. I don't know, but yeah. So I noticed that I was like, I know that name, and I looked it up. I was like, yeah, she did Loki. So
at least it wasn't Sarah Hess. Thank freaking God about that.
Sarah Hess is one of the writers on House of the Dragon, and Brittany does not like her. I don't know. I'm indifferent to her. I think
not a fan.
It's fine. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's wrap it up for this episode. Any final thoughts on Rogue? I mean, I know Amber said it was her favorite one. It was my favorite episode of the season. Yeah. Brittany, what about you?
Oh, hands down. Hands freaking down. Now, like I said, the penultimate was pretty freaking good. It was very interesting. The finale, I think maybe just not as good as the penultimate, but hands down, this episode in particular was the best of the whole entire season. I do want to say that I think episode 4 is also a close second, even though I have issues with episode 4, which is 73 yards, but that was just mind-boggling altogether. So that's the reason why I enjoyed that one so much too. But Jonathan Groff, Indra Varma, I think, like I said, Nathan Foreman, who are all people that I'm familiar with and their work. I think it's fun when you get to see actors from all these other projects who come together for Doctor Who and deliver. That was really amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that they all have fun with it too, like that's like behind the scenes things of it, them talking about it was hilarious. It's just, they knew what they were doing, releasing this right in between Bridgerton season part 1, part 2.
Love that.
And during Pride Month with the phenomenal kiss. Like it was just, all of it was so great.
Yeah. No, for sure. I kind of felt like at times it's very Deadpool, not very, very Deadpool, but like kind of meta, kind of, just poking fun at other projects. So like that's what I think, that's why I really enjoyed this episode thus far. And I will just point out, because we've done several reviews already for other shows, Shapeshifters. Got it in this episode of Doctor Who. We got Shapeshifters in The Boys.
Yep.
And then we've also had Shapeshifters, of course. We haven't talked about it here on Supernatural, Amber. If we ever want to embark on that road. Good Lord.
That is a road too long.
That is a very long road.
And Brittany, how could you forget Secret Invasion?
Because it's worth forgetting.
Yes, it is. It's definitely worth. Marvel's Secret Invasion was not a good one, but
go check out our review and find out our real thoughts.
Yeah. But no, great episode, clean sweep from us. We all enjoyed this episode. So let's move on to the penultimate episode of the season, episode 7 overall. The title, The Legend of Ruby Sunday. And this episode is all about trying to, we get the unit. We're going back to the unit tower, which is Avengers Tower, by the way. And speaking of the Avengers, this episode, the next episode, basically give us Infinity War and Endgame, kind of, in small doses, kind of give us a very similar storyline.
Yeah,
I knew you were gonna think that.
Yeah, I had to, because every time they show that tower, I'm just like, that's Avengers Tower. Like, where's Tony? Where's
Sands
Steve?
of Life? Yeah, I know. Sands of Death or whatever.
Meta.
Yeah, turning people to dust. That was very much like Infinity War. But the main thrust of this episode is about this woman named Susan Triad, who is the woman that we've seen all season long, the one that Amber said, hey, look out for this person because she's in every episode in some form or fashion. And we learned that she is the granddaughter of the Doctor, which I thought was a very interesting.
Is she though?
Is she? We're told she is. They think she is, right? Okay.
Well, it was confirmed she was not.
Yeah. So, Brittany, I'll start off with you. What did you think about the episode? What did you think about, because you've referenced the episode a couple times, how it kind of led into the finale?
So initially with this one, I was getting, bear with me, I was getting very Kingsman vibes. Kingsman that has Taron Egerton, Samuel L. Jackson, Colin Firth. I always struggle between him and Colin Farrell. I don't know why, but her Susan Triad being like this tech genius who is like gifting the world with like free technology, what have you. I was like, oh, this is very like the villain that Samuel L. Jackson plays in Kingsman. I'm like, what is her evil plan? Like, I was very sus. Like, regardless if she was the Doctor's granddaughter or not, I was very, very sus. But we do learn that Mel, who has previously been a companion of the Doctor who works for UNIT, has like infiltrated Triad's camp to, be close and get intel and what have you, which is fun. But when Susan reveals that she's been having like these dreams, she sees these things, doesn't have any explanation whatsoever. I'm just like, I'm still kind of confused on that, but I think that's probably more for the finale than for this, but I'm just kind of like leading up to it. This episode was just overall extremely interesting because you felt that tension constantly. You felt that anxiety constantly. And it's not only that, not only trying to figure out who the Susan Triad is and what is the big bad evil plan, it's also trying to help Ruby because the title isn't, The Legend of Ruby Sunday. She's had like this VHS of CCTV footage of the day that her mother left her at the church on Ruby Road that is very, snowflakey, which I think is kind of funny given that the nature of the environment. It's Christmas Eve, it's snowing, and then it's constantly snowing. Anytime Ruby is, I don't even know how to explain why it snows in Ruby's presence, if it's like high stress or just something of real significance. But Unit is able to enhance this footage and kind of try to better understand what's happening, maybe even see who her mother is. And that doesn't go according to plan, which was...
No, it doesn't go well at all.
Yeah. I'm going to let Amber explain a little bit more on this because there's no way in hell that I can.
Did you guys catch that the CCTV was 73 yards away?
Yes.
When they said it.
Yeah, it's
the metric system's lost on us Americans, but yes.
It's very what happened is they ended up releasing this. It appears first as a dark, ominous cloud swirling, kind of like a sand cloud swirling around the TARDIS in the video, in the kind of memory, I guess, because memories have power and memories are kind of what remains. And what actually ended up happening is there is something attached to the TARDIS, and it even makes our actual physical TARDIS having the same reaction too. And it basically starts this domino effect of releasing Sutekh, Destroyer of Worlds. And Sutekh is a villain from 1975, as I mentioned before. The kind of like background with Sutekh, if my paper didn't fall to the ground, is back in long time ago, ancient times, there was a race called the Osirians, like Osiris Osirians, kind of name similar. And their planet was their ancient advanced civilization, and they were almost extinct. So there was only like small, like three, I think, if I'm remembering the number right, left. And they, but Sutekh kind of started wanting to destroy like everyone, because, Destroyer of Worlds, what he does. He wanted to kill everyone and do everything. So his brother Horus trapped him in a pyramid using the Eye of Horus to have a laser shoot into Mars. And the serial that what happened in 1975 with the Fourth Doctor was called The Pyramids of Mars. Okay. Some archaeologist ends up kind of releasing Sutekh, and the Doctor has to fight him. And back in 1975, the Fourth Doctor trapped him in the time vortex, and so it was supposed to be that his body, where he would die. But that didn't happen, apparently. Since 1975, Sutekh has been, like I mentioned before, riding the spine of the TARDIS since then, and has basically just been planting, I guess, minions of darkness, for lack of a better word, which is what we know as on Earth as Susan Triad. But that's why we've been seeing that same woman everywhere, because everywhere the TARDIS lands, everywhere the Doctor goes, he sends out one of these kind of copies or these echoes of this being, so that he'll have something to tether him, so that whenever he decides to enact his plan to come back, everywhere that the Doctor has visited, there will be a bringer of death and destruction. So it's a lot of bad stuff happens, but that was kind of the basic summary for Sutekh and how he came back and why he came back.
Yeah, the god of death, Sutekh, who's in this ominous like demon dog. Is that how you describe it, Brittany? Like sort of like a dog thing?
It very much reminded me of the Egyptian god Anubis. Cultural.
And that's the point.
cultural appropriation and all. They did make a nod to that in the finale episode. But
because, like, I do want to mention, because like the species they were Osirians, which is like Osiris, another Egyptian god, and that's kind of the creator god, one of the creator gods, and obviously Horus, which is Sutek's brother that defeated him initially before the Doctor did. That's also an Egyptian god. And this is the Doctor Who universe reason, as back in the 70s, as to the Egyptians were inspired by what had happened in ancient Earth with these aliens. So their gods were named after that. So Sutek became Set. Horus was Horus. Osiris was the creator. So it's just kind of it's all very Egyptian based, and the episode in the 70s was very Egyptian based, and that's what the Doctor mentions, like you said. Because Ruby's like, what's with all the Egyptian stuff? And he's like, cultural appropriation.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Who doesn't do that well? But that being said, I will say my own demon dog had some words for Suketh when it was on the screen, growling, and Luna would respond in kind. So yeah.
Like I told you, Sutek is the only not good doggo in the world in existence.
Yes.
All other doggos are good doggos.
Yes. Although Luna does question that sometimes.
No, the goodest croissant.
Oh, my croissant. Yes, this is true. Yeah. So yeah, it looks kind of like Anubis, which happens to resemble that of like an Egyptian dog, if you will.
It's a jackal. He's a
jackal. Couldn't think of the word. Yes, thank you. Good Lord.
Yeah. And also in this episode, we get a lot of like anagrams and a lot of the things are hidden within the words. You have, like for example, Susan Triad, her initials would be S Triad, which is TARDIS. If you rearrange the letters, it's TARDIS. Then later on, we learn about how, she has this company, it's Susan Triad Technology. Short for that is Sutek. And then Sutek, of course, is the name of the god of death, which we've just been talking about. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to kind of bring this character from 1975 back to the Doctor Who universe, and to make it seem like this is like the greatest villain. But is that the case, Amber? Is Sutek Doctor Who's greatest villain? Because I mean, obviously, if they've only had two matchups per se, like that wouldn't be like the main rival of the Doctor, I guess.
I don't have a solid, safe answer for that, because the biggest bad of Doctor Who is always going to be the current bad of Doctor Who. Like I don't.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Like and if you go back in past seasons, it's the Daleks. If you go in past seasons, it's the Master. If you go back in other seasons, it's the Cybermen. If you go into others, it's the Silence. Others, it's the Weeping Angels. I'm telling you, it's just.
Yeah, it's basically whoever's the latest is the greatest. I understand that makes a lot of sense. But I do want to ask you, because I don't think Brittany's going to have this answer, because I certainly do not have this answer. There's a part early in the episode when we're in the unit, offices, and where there's this 13-year-old whiz kid named Morris Gibbons, and they're talking about they've been tracking, Susan Triad, or they've been tracking these people for years, and they reference that they say like they've been tracking all these beings except for the one that's obvious, but we'll get him. My question to you, who is he talking about?
A lot of people think that it's the Master, because the unit just goes after the Master, and unit have history.
Okay.
That's what I kind of figured. I mean, not that I know anything about the Master, but Amber has talked about the Master enough for me to kind of assume that it would have been the Master.
Yeah, he's just kind of it's just kind of a joke that he is the obvious. So the fact that they even said, other than the obvious, but we'll get him later, like. So yeah, because he's always coming back. Like that's just the nature of most of the villains with Doctor Who, is like everyone has an eventual potential to come back.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question. I have a question about what Maestro had talked about in their episode, referring to the old one is coming or something. What I can't remember the quote precisely, but just making reference that there was something or someone coming for the Doctor. And is Sutek the one that is being referred to in this context?
That is what we have to assume, because they said the one who waits. And that was what he said, is that what they said. They said the one who waits.
Right.
He waits for you. So it's assumed that is, because also, like, he is the god of death, and you know what always waits for everyone is
right
death. So that's kind of the assumption. I have seen others mention too that they aren't too sure. They might be somebody else later on. Others, because they do say that the Maestro also says the oldest one, the most ancient one, was there at the night of Ruby's birth. We assume that it was Sutek because of this moment. Yeah. And Sutek was kind of the catalyst for all of Ruby's weirdness, for lack of a better word, I guess. But another thing that too is other people think that this might be, because we do know that Millie Gibson will be in other. She's not going to be a full-time companion in the next season, but she has filmed things for the next season. So we have thought that maybe this is a 2-season arc. Maybe, who knows? We really don't know, but I can get more into that in the series section.
So my other question regarding just something that also happened, and I've always been sus about this character even from the first time that we met her, and that's the neighbor to Ruby and Cherry and Clara, is Mrs. Flood. Mrs. Flood, who, you know, complained about the TARDIS being in the middle of the sidewalk and blaming someone else for it, and then just kind of casually just accepted, you know, that it was moving about and there was a doctor involved and all this other kind of things. So it's kind of like, what is happening? Like, she seems to be very aware. She seems to not be freaked out by any of the stuff that's happening, because like every other, I guess, sane person would be. So, and that became very apparent too with her in these last 2 episodes. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but like, what the hell is her deal? Mrs. Flood, like, what is going on with her? Justin, am I off base here? Did you get like weird vibes? No. Like, what's going on with her?
No, definitely. I think she really plays a bigger factor in the finale than this episode. I think we see her in this episode, but then in the finale, she has her character. We see the character kind of change from what we think she is, and then of course she has said something at the very end of the final episode that's very leading toward next season or the special or whatever's coming next for Doctor Who. But I guess we could ask Amber now because she's gonna have the answer for us. But Amber, what give us the 411 on Mrs. Flood. Like, what's up with her?
I might not have a good answer for you because
that's fine.
I have an entire section of theories about her because we don't know.
Okay.
So that's all the answers I really got is theories. Do you guys want to discuss theories now, or do you want to do it at the end?
I kind of feel like it would be fine because these obviously these episodes go hand in hand. I mean, it's
a to be continued.
It's a to be continued. So like, I feel like jumping around and referencing back and forth is gonna have to be acceptable because so many questions.
All right. So I did specifically look up theories about what people think, who people think Mrs. Flood is. And I do have some theories. So there's 5 that are really, really common that I see various reasonings and explanations for. And I don't know which one I personally follow, but I think all of them are interesting. The first, I'm going to go through her as fast as I can. The Ronnie. People think it's the Ronnie. That is another time lady. The Ronnie grew up with the Master and the Doctor, and she kind of, she's a genetic chemist. So she's insanely smart, but she can be a little, I guess, ruthless in the face, like ruthless to living beings in the face of progression. So eventually, as they grew up together and parted ways, I guess, she became kind of an unwilling ally to the Master and an enemy of the Doctor. So, but we haven't seen the Ronnie in forever. It's been a long time. I don't even know how long, but it's been a long time. But it's kind of a funny joke that we all remind ourselves every season finale. We're like, it's never the Ronnie. It's never this. It's never that. And kind of just to remind ourselves that it's never going to be the Ronnie. Russell T Davies has mentioned before, and Moffat has also mentioned before when they were showrunners, about the possibility of introducing the Ronnie back. Like Davies even went as far as to say who he would like to cast if he had cast her back then. But I don't know. She's a time lady. She can regenerate. It is a possibility that it's the Ronnie. Also, if it is the Ronnie, then is that who picked up the tooth that held the Master from the toy maker? So it's just kind of because the Ronnie has worked with the Master before. And there were theories too, back a long time ago, another time that the Master was destroyed. He was destroyed and his body was kind of burnt, but in the remains, his ring still existed, and that was used to bring him back. Before it was announced that was like his human, I guess, companion, the Master's companion. It was thought that the hand picking it up was Robert T. Davies did tease that was the Ronnie. But then when the actual episode came out, it was like, oh, that was just a human companion, not the Ronnie. So that's one major thing, is people think it's the Ronnie, but I would hold my breath. Then another one is that it's the Master. We have seen the Master as in a female regeneration before as Missy. And I don't know, it could be the Master. Who knows? Because the Master does come back all the time, always.
Right.
This one doesn't have much merit, I don't think, but some people think it's Clara, a previous companion. She, her outfit is one of, like Mrs. Flood's outfit, is very, very, like with the white shirt with the collar peeking over a blue sweater. That is almost exactly the same as Clara's, the last time that we kind of really see her. But and also she does say, she calls the Doctor that clever boy. And one of the main things that Clara had said before, like I guess one of her catchphrases is just like to the Doctor saying, "Run, you clever boy." So that's the only basis. But Clara is a not evil person, so we don't really know. We don't understand why she would be like so ominous and creepy about things and not giving an old lady tea. Like, I don't think it's Clara.
Yeah.
And she says like talking about the coming of Sutek, right? And noticing that like the winds have changed and blah blah blah. And then before they're dusted, she and the grandmother, it's like, oh, I had such plans. And it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Another one is that it's Susan, the actual Susan.
Okay.
The
actual granddaughter.
The actual granddaughter Susan, because Sutek created
plot twist.
Created Susan Triad specifically to make the Doctor think that maybe this is his family. Okay. It was intent. Like he even says that. He taunts him. He's just like, "Did you think you found family? Did you think you found connection?" and stuff like that. So some people think that she really is Susan, especially because her name is Mrs. Flood and Susan's last name is Foreman. So, the F initial, it's just a thought that people have. I had it somewhere where, I don't remember where, but it was somewhere on my phone where they say that she has, like where it kind of references how she talks about her parents and her mom, and like when she's just kind of rambling to Cherry Sunday about and how kind of connecting it to things that happened with Susan and the doctor and other things. I don't really know, because again, I don't really see Susan turning evil, because Susan she's a good half human, half Time Lord being. Like we like her. So I don't see that being it. Another option is the last one I'll talk about is during the flux, which is when we found a couple seasons ago when we found out that the doctor is not even really Gallifreyan, not even a Time Lord, not even from this universe. He is some other being called the Timeless Child. That happened during the flux, and so we kind of just refer to that moment as the flux. The doctor is referring to the flux. There was a time entity that can shapeshift and it can adjust how it looks, and it did say things like 213. The 13th Doctor. It said, "You won't outrun me," and time is heading like your time is heading to its end, and then that kind of echoes that last little foreboding thing that we got with Mrs. Flood saying like the doctor's time is nearing its end and it's full of terror. Like so we don't really have a name for it other than like flux time entity. Because we don't really think it like we don't even know what it is. It's just a time entity. It's not a solid being. So that's kind of those are the main theories that I have seen. If there are others, I would love for other people to comment and tell me about them, because I love these theories, especially until we get more, because we are going to get more with Flood.
Yeah, it's just like her throughout this whole season has just been super sus, like I said. And then just the last episode for sure, with her completely changing demeanor when she entered the Sunday household, and how she like went from being very nice and all that to no, don't really care what you want, because we don't always get what we want now, do we? And it's like,
that the little cheekiness at the end of the specials, her being like, "What? Never seen a TARDIS before?" Directly into the camera. Like,
yeah, breaking the fourth wall, all that. Very interesting indeed. And on that note, another interesting thing, because like I said, not only are the Doctor, Ruby, Unit, and them trying to deal with this force. I'm sorry, they're dealing with this force of Sutek, obviously, and thinking that Susan Triad is related to the Doctor. But the other part of this is that Ruby is trying to find her mother, and the way that this whole time wall, I guess that's what it's called, is how it works, is that it pulls information from the VHS, albeit very snowy and very, old and what have you. It's recreating the day that Ruby was left on Christmas Eve at that church. And then we see the Doctor when he arrived and, saving Ruby from the goblins, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, the weird part of all this, and hopefully one of y'all can explain this to me, was my initial thought was, well, maybe the mother, Ruby's actual mother, is Susan Triad, because we had no idea whatsoever how old her mother could have been. Obviously, we learned that in the finale, but like at that moment, I'm like, well, what if like it's not? Okay, no, I take that back. What I thought was, well, if the Doctor's granddaughter, Susan Triad, is actually his granddaughter, what if she were also the mother to Ruby? Therefore, like the whole connection between Ruby and the Doctor being so strong, it's because of through that, generational or genetics and what have you. Because I kept thinking Ruby is somehow able to make it snow under circumstances that have yet to be explained. And I thought it makes her some sort of, powerful being, that one thing or another. And then, even during that whole time wall thing, you still don't get to see who the mother is, but the mother turns around and points in the direction of the doctor. And, we didn't at that moment have quite the explanation that we eventually would get. But I was under the impression that Bride could actually be Ruby's biological mother. Therefore tying all of this into each other very well. Justin, did you have
You're
anything?
not alone. You're not alone. A lot of people thought you're not alone. But Justin, go ahead.
No, I just to say, that's what I thought too. Like in my notes, I was like, is Ruby's mother Susan Triad? That's what I wrote during the episode. So yeah, that's what I thought. That was not the case, and we do talk. We'll talk about who the actual mother is here in a little bit, but that's what I thought they were trying to point to that, which I thought was kind of strange that like the doctor's companion would be his, family member. That would kind of be
really like his great granddaughter at that point.
That's how it started. I mean, the first doctor traveled with Susan. And that was his granddaughter.
Okay.
And I am going to do my very best not to spoil anything for you, Justin, if you go back and watch the other seasons, but there is a time where the doctor is traveling with his in-laws. With his in-laws, and it's interesting. We also do meet how David Tennant actually met his in real life reality world wife is from a Doctor Who episode. And she played the doctor's daughter. They just were cloning people, and they like got the doctor's DNA without permission, and he was rather pissed off about it. But that actually kind of brings me to, because before with this episode, we obviously were having our own theories about who the mom could be. One of the theories obviously was Susan. That was a very, very popular theory. Another one was that it's Jenny, the character I just mentioned, because it was back with David Tennant's doctor, the 10th Doctor, and this planet was just creating already grown into adulthood genetic clones, basically kind of like kids, from people to create soldiers. And they created Jenny, and the doctor was obviously pissed off, for one, because they did it without permission, and two, that makes her Time Lord-ish. Right. The last time we saw of her, Jenny, was that she was flying in a spaceship and she was really sacrificing herself. Her ship was going to explode, but there is a glowing yellow energy around her that looks like regeneration. So, but the doctor didn't know that, and we don't know what became of that. So Jenny's kind of like a loose thread that no one's ever talked about. So some people were like, oh, is Jenny her mother? So that would actually be, that make Ruby the granddaughter. Other people think it's Rose. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of different things, but no one guessed what it was actually going to be. So
yeah, because I kind of feel like the explanation of all that, not so much like it didn't. There was something about it that just didn't seem right, especially with the explanation as to why was the mother she lingered for a bit, probably upset. I understandably so. You're giving up your child, but then you turn around and 15, point. But you turn around and point, and everyone's like, "Oh, she was pointing at the doctor. She was pointing at the," and then the doctor said, "No, she was actually pointing at a signpost behind me." And it said Ruby Road, and that's how she named you. And it's like, but who the hell would have seen and known that?
Yeah, that's why we all have problems with that. Yes.
I'm like, that's a terrible explanation.
Right. And just real quick, now we're talking about the finale, episode 8, which is Empire of Death.
Yeah.
And let's continue the discussion with the fact that Sutek has taken over, turning worlds to dust. This is where I got the Infinity War vibes. Obviously, they were very very spot on. And yeah, so let's continue talking about that. Amber, is there anything you want to bring up? I mean, there's probably a million things, but what's like the main thing you want to bring up about the finale?
Brittany and I also talked about this off screen. I want to bring up what was in the memory TARDIS. There are just some things that I just want to, I guess, harken to. So it's not really important plot wise, but I just want to talk about them. One of them was obviously Mel she traveled with two doctors. She traveled with 6 and 7. And when she came in, she saw the remnants of hanging on hooks or whatever, the outfit that her doctors used to wear. And like later on in that same, later on when they're still in the memory TARDIS and she's kind of snoozing or resting, she's very much clearly holding on to and cuddling her doctor's sweater, the one with the question marks. And I thought that was really sentimental and cute. Like I only cried a little bit. It was very, very tiny, but around the screen, that little the little glowing yellow, I guess, columns. Those are kind of look like these, what around me, and this, but it's mostly after the 13th Doctor's TARDIS. So those are from the 13th Doctor's TARDIS. You see red high heels, which belonged to his wife, River Song. Those were hers. I sent Brittany an actual text image. Like I sent her the photo of River Song and her outfit that those heels are specifically from. And there's also when Rose started traveling with the Doctor, she didn't tell anyone that she was going off on this adventure. So she was gone for a couple of months. And they thought she was missing, and the last time she was seen was with a random guy, so the Doctor. So there was a whole season, I guess, episode about how Rose came back, and people were like, "We thought you were missing. Where were you?" There was wanted posters. There's like missing posters for you everywhere. One of the missing posters was in memory TARDIS, of like, "Where is Rose Tyler?" I wonder that too every day. Then there's other things like the 4th Doctor's scarf. Brittany caught that, and I'm very happy. Other small little things that are just like, that makes me happy. It makes me remember that our TARDIS is still here, regardless of how many times it changes shape and regenerates on its own too. Because I love the TARDIS in this series, but it's so pretty and pristine and clean, and it doesn't feel as lived in as like previous TARDISes. So I really, that's one thing I wanted to point out too. But I really, and then there's also, I'll get more into it with theories, but there's things about how the show was. But Brittany, how you've said that it kind of fell a little flat for you, how after all of this theorizing, her mom just ended up being a normal person. That's kind of where we got with that energy that I mentioned before, where a lot of fans were like, we feel like we're being made fun of for noticing the connections you wanted us to notice.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, yeah. Because apparently Sutek had like a fascination with finding out who Ruby's mom was as well. It wasn't just Ruby who wanted to know the name and who she was and if she was still around and that kind of thing. Like Sutek wanted to know that information as well. And it's like, what's so special about this child and then about her parent? And it's just like, what was the point of that whole plot line? Like, I don't understand, like, unless it was because the mother is just ordinary. She had a child at 15, gave her up because of the situation at home with the stepfather, and the boyfriend apparently didn't even know as well that Ruby's biological mother was pregnant. But she went on and had a life. She went on and got an education. She has a job. She is living life, right? But unless there's something to do with the father, you know what I mean? Because like they left that kind of open-ended about, they've also found my father and I'm going to go meet him and da-da-da. And it's like, okay, well.
His last name is Garnet. Ruby, Garnet, both of them are red. Both of them are stones that are red.
Yes.
So that's one of the theories I wanted to talk about, is that a lot of people think that the next part of her story is going to be about her dad. Like, yeah, her mom was normal, but what about the dad?
Right. Because, and then too, like, still didn't fully get at least unless I missed it because I'm dumb. I didn't get the full explanation as to why Ruby and the snow. What's the connection with that? Like, why was she able to make it snow under different circumstances? Like, was that because she is a powerful being of some kind, or is that done by somebody else?
You guys want me to answer? Okay.
Yes, please do. Yeah, because I don't know. Sorry.
I thought you were going to make an attempt. It's never explicitly said, but it's assumed that was Sutek.
Oh.
Sutek.
See, that makes it even less interesting now.
I know. And that's kind of why people were a little let down with this. Because, yeah, it was a great episode, but also, like, once you kind of sit back and think about it, it's like, oh. So every time that it was snowing, it's basically because it's a moment where something about her is being questioned or being talked about, and that's making Sutek being like, because for an ageless god of destruction, he is way too overinterested in a random girl.
He needs a new hobby.
Like, yeah, but also, like, how funny is it that Sutek is probably just watching all the drama with other companions and the doctor, and like he was there for Rogue.
Oh.
So it's just kind of funny. Little tidbit to think about, but it's assumed that it was Sutek, like him, just because all of those moments when it was snowing is when Maestro was talking about like the song of her soul or whatever, and like her secret song, and it started snowing because that Sutek is just like, I need to know. And then same thing within Space Baby. He's like, why is there always babies around you? Like, what happened with your, like, what is it about you and that and the coincidences and stuff? And it started snowing again because Sutek's freaking out. And when she was like connected to the ambulance and they were trying to look up other relatives and stuff like that, Sutek is also like, I need to know. And so it's just assumed it's Sutek. I don't
like that. That's
me either.
It's like a cop out. It's like just lazy writing. I don't like that.
Well,
sorry, go ahead, Justin.
No, I was just gonna say, Brittany, what did you think? Speaking of Sutek, what did you think about how Sutek is defeated in this episode? Because the Doctor and Ruby basically, defeat Sutek, bring everyone back, and the saying is you're bringing death to death, which brings life back. What did you think about that?
I don't know. Not cultural appropriation, but I'm channeling my love for the Mummy, the Brendan Fraser movie from back in the day, how death is only the beginning, sort of quote, what have you. So it's kind of channeling all of that, of course. It's like every new beginning is some other beginnings end, or whatever that song is from Semisonic.
Closing time, yeah, that's what that's.
Closing time. That song should have been featured in one of these episodes. My God,
well, obviously the finale, right?
What a wasted opportunity. Good Lord. I need Ryan Reynolds to jump on this and start, coordinating stuff.
He's too American, unfortunately.
No, he's Canadian.
He's Canadian.
I know, but they're going to think of it as that. It's going to be.
Yeah, I got you. I understand.
They're under British rules.
He's not British.
He's North American.
That's as far as they think. He is. Well, they honestly, they don't know that New Mexico is a state. So, like, we're not going to go there.
We're not going to go. Okay, anyway, back to this. With the idea of defeating Sutek in the way that they did, they have him tethered to the TARDIS, and they're traveling through time, of course, and the Doctor is explaining how he had once defeated Sutek with the time vortex and whatnot, and he wasn't going to make that mistake again. I would assume, of course, taunting him as they're making their way through, and it seems like Sutek is kind of like cutting through the fabric of time, right? And all these people who were once dusted are coming back, and he himself eventually will turn into dust, if you will, as a result of going, I guess, through that vortex. I don't understand the whole science behind all that, but
he
Yeah, me personally, I don't feel like that was personally like fleshed out a lot to make us non-experts understand what was happening.
Amber, what did you think about how Sutek was dispatched?
It wasn't really clear. Like, you're not wrong. That was the time vortex, by the way. That's what they fly through. That's what the intro is. It is the time vortex. So by him doing that, it's not just like dragging him through time, but it's also kind of wiping him away through time. And it's because the thought is that it's because the time vortex, beings aren't really supposed to survive in it. There are a few characters who have clung to the TARDIS in flight through the vortex, like Jack Harkness, but he was able to do that for a very, very different reason than Sutek was. This is mostly just to, like you said, drag him down until eventually he will wither away. Because it is a time vortex. You do rapidly age in it. That's why most things can't survive in the time vortex. But yeah, it's just kind of a wave it away until it goes away kind of thing. But it does bring up some of the theories that I want to talk about later. But
why don't you go for it now?
Okay. Yeah. One of them is that since people think that the Doctor might be part of the Pantheon, and because the Doctor is the only being who's able to fight all of these gods, like the Maestro, the Toymaker, Sutek, and in the past he's fought the Trickster, who is also part of the Pantheon. And we know that he is not really from this universe. He is some other kind of timeless being. And since he has such a visceral need to protect people and protect life and continue things going on, some people think he is the god of life. Another theory too that kind of plays off of the Pantheon theory is that Ruby is part of the Pantheon. They think she might be the god of stories. If she's part of the Pantheon, that's a theory. But yeah, people think the Doctor is part of the Pantheon, so he is the life to Sutek's death, and that's kind of it.
Another thing, he did say something along those lines, like if you are death, then I am life.
Yep.
So okay.
And so that's kind of a fun little theory that people are messing around with. They also joke with how, like you were saying, how it basically brings life everywhere. A lot of us are kind of like, does that include Gallifrey? Does that include Skaro with the Daleks? Does that include everything?
Hopefully not Fine-Tine. Okay, that one can stay dead. That's fine. That's fine with me.
Unfortunately. Oh, well, actually, it was destroyed before then, so.
Right.
Yay!
So it was destroyed by the slugs. So.
Yay for the slugs.
And we're just going to theorize that they sailed up a waterfall. So they were probably already dead beforehand. So that's what I'm going to choose to believe.
I support this.
But yeah, like that's one of the things too, is like, did the Doctor bring life? And I mean, Gallifrey has been destroyed and brought back, and just said everyone thought it was completely destroyed and everyone was killed off, and really it was actually just hidden away. Then it's been it was hidden away, but it was safe away. Sorry if you guys hear that giant motorcycle outside my window.
Rude. It is not the TARDIS.
It is such a loud motorcycle. I live above a pub, podcast listeners. I am so sorry. But they also theorize that is this bringing back Gallifrey? Is this bringing back Skaro and all the Daleks? Is this bringing back everything? Because we don't know how far it extended.
Okay.
Really. Okay. And I have questions.
Do you have any other theories about the season you want to mention?
Oh yeah, I do. So I'll kind of like list them off, and we can go into them as you would like. Some people are theorizing that Rogue is the Master.
Okay.
What? I would love that, actually.
There is tension between the master and the doctor.
Is it sexual? Is it sexual? Oh yes, I love that.
They are when the master was Missy. When the master was Missy, that was with the 12th Doctor, and when Missy was talking to his human companion, was saying like, our relationship is something that it's more than friendship. It's more than you can understand with your puny human brain. Like, I've known him since he was a little girl, since he stole the president's wife and the moon, and like I've known him since this and this, and like, and you know, people say all the time like, you're trying to kill him, and he's like, that's our flirting. Like, Missy had like outright kissed the doctor.
Mine too.
Yeah. Missy kissed 12 and even said like, my heart is yours, both of them.
No.
You know, like, and
love that.
This is a psychopath we're talking about, babe. Like,
they have feelings too. It's fine.
There's a lot of shippers who ship the 10th Doctor with Harold Saxon, the master version of Harold Saxon, the one that tried to become Prime Minister and killed everybody. There's a whole bunch of things, but people think that their tension an automatic thing, because every single time the Doctor is automatically clicking with like a person intellectually or just vibes wise, a big chunk of the time it tends to be the master. So a lot of people were just like, it's the master. I don't really think that. Some people also were theorizing that it's Jack Harkness, which would be cool, but Jack has an actor, but the actor obviously is human and has aged. And we did see Jack Harkness in the 13th, with the 13th Doctor in the 13th season. So we did see him again, but like I mentioned before, Jack Harkness was also a bounty hunter. He had a vortex manipulator. He did travel. He had like kind of wore like the trench coat like looking thing. He had the swagger, I guess, and energy and the flirtatiousness that Rogue has. But and like I said, Jack does, because Jack Harkness has his own spin-off TV show, Torchwood.
Okay.
And Jack does have feelings for the Doctor, so it's
a little heartbreaker, ain't he?
Doctor, yeah.
Oh yeah, love that.
So it's a whole thing. So that's a fun theory. I personally would like it if Rogue was his own being. I love Jack. Jack Harkness was actually the first Doctor Who actor I ever met in person. Yeah, it was really, really cool. But I kind of like the idea that Rogue is his own being. When also, like, there is a theory too, because like Rogue does say that he traveled with somebody and he lost them. There is a theory that was one of the memories and lives that the Doctor didn't remember because of the flux when they took away his memories. Because the Doctor's had more regenerations than 15. Because during the flux, he found out that he's literally an ageless being. So that the Time Lords just took away his memories of past regenerations and past lives and past adventures and things that he's done. So some people think that that's his thing, that Rogue knew a previous incarnation of the Doctor and stuff like that. Then I'm sorry. Then there's who's Ruby's dad? We have no idea, but there are theories that the dad isn't human, and that is actually what's weird about her. The Rogue also mentioned his new boss, and the Meep also said, "I can't wait to tell the boss." So people think that might be the same boss.
Okay.
We don't know who it is. It could be Mrs. Flood. It could be some other person. We have no idea.
Yeah. It sounds like with Doctor Who. Sorry, just want to interject one thing. It sounds like with Doctor Who, there's a lot of threads that are like put in the show that aren't answered for years and seasons later. So it's not like you don't get all the answers in one season. That's why this show is lasted for 60 years and for 40 seasons and who knows however much longer. So go ahead and continue.
Yeah, this is literally the last one. Is that this is a show within a show.
Okay.
And this kind of goes along that this, especially with this reboot in this season, because like I've told you, I've been peppering it in throughout this podcast coverage, is that there are a lot of echoes this season of the first reboot back in 2005, like Rose and Ruby, 19-year-old blonde raised by a single mother, 19-year-old blonde raised by a single mother, the 4-letter R name, then also like how space babies and being in an orbiter overlooking, and the Doctor hacking her phone so she's able to call her mom millennia away from her, and also from space. He did the same thing with Rose. There's like, and then also Rogue being very much like Jack Harkness, and I have more. Hold on. Boom being like the empty child, because that is also something that took place during a war, in a war zone, and there's so many of these that it's just like the connections are there, and people think, and then like I've said before, when in the Christmas special, when he saved Ruby from the falling snowman decor thing before properly meeting her, that was the same shop that Rose worked at, and his outfit was basically the same, like that leather coat that he's wearing behind you guys. That's the same, very similar style as to the Ninth Doctor's outfits, just in brown instead of black. And so a lot of people are kind of noticing, oh, what if this is because of the cosplay thing? Because everything's around stories. Like, the Space Babies had a story to make up a boogeyman.
Right.
And like, and then obviously there's the folklore thing with the 73 yards. There's stories here and there. There's a cosplay episode with with Rogue. There's Dot and Bubble, which is just kind of obviously a make-believe world where they're playing things. And it's just, there's so many echoes that people think that this is a show within a show, especially with the Doctor breaking the fourth wall, other characters like Mrs. Flood breaking the fourth wall, him being able to use the Sonic to mute sound like a controller. And also, I don't have a photo to show you guys, but the Sonic is usually just kind of looks like a little tube. It looks like a screwdriver. It's not really hard. Right. The 15th Doctor's looks more like a remote. It honestly reminds me of Click, that movie Click with Adam Sandler. Right. Like, if you guys remember that movie.
I do, yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. So it's just, people are thinking that this is a show within a show, and it's cosplaying itself, and that this first season is cosplaying the original first season from the reboot in 2005.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this show. There's definitely a lot of layers, and there's a lot to discuss. Brittany, what are your kind of final thoughts for the season, or this episode, or both?
For the finale, like I said, it just fell a little bit for me. The build up to, Ruby's mom's big reveal, like, that was fine. I'm glad she has like that closure, and she actually got to meet her mother. And I thought that was actually kind of a weird but also kind of sweet way of like introducing herself to her mother at the coffee shop. And the barista calls out Ruby's name and says, "That's me." And then she looks at her mother and starts telling her her life story. And I'm like, you wouldn't normally do that to somebody that you see at a coffee shop. But okay, whatever. And then like everyone's like bonding. They're at the Sunday house, and let me show you photos. Let me do this. But then Ruby has like this very tearful goodbye with the Doctor, because he basically says, like, Ruby, like, your story is just beginning. So like the theory of story, and maybe Ruby being someone more powerful than what we kind of know her to be at this moment. Would be very interesting to see unfold if it does end up being like that. But it seems that Ruby obviously is going to stay home, stay put more so. The Doctor is going to be traveling and doing his thing, and maybe we'll find a different companion. But overall, like, for this being my first real exposure to anything Doctor Who, has been very enjoyable. The specials were a little much. I felt like, like I said, I was going to someone else's prom and just like watching from the sidelines. But seeing Ncuti and Millie, and kind of just making it work between them, and then like the show as a whole and the storytelling overall, I give it like a solid 8 out of 10. I want to say there's some moments that I was like, oh God, I can't stand this, or like that didn't, pan out well, and that kind of thing. I think for me, like I said, as a first timer with Doctor Who, I would give this show about an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Good strong rating. That's cool. Amber, is there anything else you want to talk about before we close out this episode?
No, because honestly, I could talk forever, so let's not. But if anybody wants to hear me talk about more, you guys can message me on Instagram. So you guys can do that, or comment here, and they will tell me if you guys have questions for me, because they'll go to them and they will tell me. But yeah, I'm really glad that you guys liked it. If you guys do end up watching the original reboot, let me know. I would like to know about it and keep up with your integration into Whovian. But I'm very, very excited. I can send, now that you guys have seen everything, I can send you guys the teaser trailer that we got from San Diego Comic-Con for the Christmas special. So I can send that to you guys now, which I will do later. But yeah, I'm very excited.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to what's next, because like I said earlier, I think this is a show that we're going to be watching and following in the future, and doing episode by episode reviews and talking about it, because I enjoyed this world. I enjoyed, obviously Amber gave us the nudge that we needed to take a look at it, and we did that, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the storylines. There's a lot to it, but whenever you jump into the 40th season of anything, like, you can't really complain. It's like people that have never seen a Marvel movie. If you go see the latest movie, you may not understand everything. That's okay, as long as you understand the story they're trying to tell you, which Marvel does a good job with that. This show does a good job with that. You'll be fine. And if you're interested in finding out everything about the show or the IP or whatever, you can go back and find these things and watch them and read about them and all kinds of stuff. So really enjoyed it. And looking forward to talking about Doctor Who more. So once again, thanks to Amber for joining us and for telling us all about Doctor Who, getting us interested in it. And
thank you for giving it a chance, guys. Really.
Yeah. So now that what we thought about Doctor Who season 1, we want to get your thoughts. And Brittany, how can people let us know?
Hey, we always enjoy talking about these review of these shows, but we enjoy it more so when we've got y'all in our live chat as we do this live stream. So shout out to King B Johnson, who joined us in today's chat. We appreciate you being here as always. But we do invite those who are watching our replay to also leave your comments down below in YouTube, in our YouTube video, of course. And don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed our review on Doctor Who, the season 1 for Disney Plus. Don't forget to subscribe. We just hit 400 subscribers, but we are not trying to slow down anytime soon, y'all. Please hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell the Time Lords about us. And if it reaches the master, great. Once again, subscribe, like. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way, the next time we go live, which will be very shortly, with other projects in the works from us here at the Watchers in the Basement. We've got sports. NFL's back, y'all. We were going to be bringing y'all some sports talk with not me. So yay. But Amber and I will be coming back eventually to talk about the fall of the House of Usher. So if you guys are into that, be sure to tune into those future pod reviews coming very, very shortly. And also follow us on our social media. You can click the About section. That way you know what those links are. And also go give us a follow over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That way we're growing our audience there. be sure to give us a 5-star rating as well.
Appreciate it, Brittany. Thank you very much. So for Brittany and for Amber, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good evening. Goodbye.